The Shadows of Avondale Manor. Once upon a time, in the heart of the little-known English countryside, a testament to the Victorian grandeur stood in quiet isolation. Avondale Manor, a sprawling estate that whispered tales of a bygone era, was more of a monument than a home. Its walls, erected in the time of Queen Victoria, bore the insignia of the Avondale family, and its once luscious gardens were now a wasteland, a sea of grey, lifeless vegetation that the townsfolk referred to as the dead woods. The grandeur of the manor was not only confined to its size. Its architecture was a marvel, a testament to the brilliant minds and tireless hands that shaped it centuries ago. A grand entrance led to an even grander foyer, adorned with elaborate murals and intricate woodwork. From the towering chimneys that touched the English sky to the aged stone gargoyles that stood guard at the gate, the manor was a sight to behold, and yet, it was also a sight that the locals avoided. Stories were spun around fires, whispers of a forgotten tragedy echoed within the town's hushed tones. Children were warned against venturing near it, and even the bravest of souls wouldn't dare approach it at night. The tales of the manor, and of the shadow that allegedly dwelt within, had become a part of the town's folklore. Two brave souls dared to tread where others would not. Amelia, a young, ambitious investigative journalist from the city, was always eager to unravel the unknown, to uncover hidden truths. She had a knack for finding stories where others saw none. And this manor, with its haunting aura and whispered tales, was the perfect mystery. James, a historian with a deep interest in the paranormal, was a peculiar man. He didn't just study history, he sought to experience it, to live through it. His obsession with the mysteries of the paranormal world was more than a passing interest. It was an insatiable thirst that he needed to quench. When he crossed paths with Amelia and heard about the manor, he knew that it was a journey he had to undertake. One overcast evening, they found themselves standing at the rusty gates of Avondale Manor, each driven by their individual ambitions. Amelia had a notepad clutched tightly in her hand and a camera slung over her shoulder. James had a worn-out leather satchel, which carried a collection of old maps, a flashlight, and an EMF meter, a device used by ghost hunters. The weather seemed to mirror the eeriness of the manor. Dark clouds loomed overhead, casting ominous shadows that danced and swayed with the wind. The wind howled like a creature in pain, carrying with it a chill that made them shudder. They glanced at each other, shrugging off the unease that had begun to creep within them, and stepped through the creaky gates. Inside the manor, they found remnants of the past splattered across the canvas of time. The marbled floors, once polished to perfection, were now coated in a layer of dust. The grand chandelier, which hung from the ceiling, was home to countless spiders that had spun their webs around it. The paintings on the wall, eaten away by time, still managed to portray the former residents in their finest attires. As they walked deeper into the manor, the daylight began to recede. They switched on their flashlights, their beams cutting through the darkness, revealing hidden corners and forgotten artifacts. They went from room to room, exploring every corner, their senses on high alert. Around midnight, in a room on the second floor, Amelia's flashlight fell upon a painting. It was a family portrait featuring the Avondale family, Lord Avondale, his wife, Lady Avondale, and their twin children. They all wore somber expressions, their eyes following the observer around the room. In the background, an amorphous shadow loomed. The faceless figure seemed to be barely distinguishable from the rest of the painting, and yet, Amelia couldn't help but feel a sense of unease when looking at it. As they continued to explore the depths of the manor, they stumbled upon the library, a massive room lined with towering bookshelves. Some shelves were empty, others housed books with pages yellowed with age. But it wasn't the books that drew their attention. It was the soft, ghostly glow that was emanating from the room's farthest corner. Intrigued, they followed the source of the ethereal glow to the room's farthest corner. As they approached, the glow began to recede until it vanished completely, leaving behind an antique table lit by the shaft of moonlight cascading from a nearby window. Resting on the table was an old diary, its pages yellowed and frayed, as if consumed by countless years. James reached out to the diary, its cover was coated in a thick layer of dust. As he opened it, a musty smell filled the air, carrying with it a sense of nostalgia, of faded memories, and untold stories. The pages were filled with elegant, flowing handwriting. They soon realized the diary belonged to Lady Avondale. It was more than just a chronicle of her life, it was a testament to the terror that once plagued the manor. It spoke of the shadow, the ambiguous figure in their family portrait. The entries grew more frantic over time, with Lady Avondale mentioning chilling whispers in the darkness, of children waking up screaming, of servants leaving without notice. The shadow was not merely an artistic oddity but an entity that haunted their lives. The last entry in the diary was a foreboding warning: heed our tale, intruders. Beware of the shadow. The words were etched with a sense of urgency that sent a chill down their spines. As Amelia read the last line aloud, a sudden gust of cold wind swept through the library, snuffing out their flashlights. The room plunged into an eerie darkness, the only light coming from the pale glow of the moon outside. A low, guttural whisper filled the room, echoing the same warning Lady Avondale had left in her diary. Then, before their terrified eyes, a shadow began to form. It started as an amorphous silhouette at the far end of the room, barely noticeable. But it began to grow, taking a humanoid shape. Its presence felt like a chilling touch against their skin. Amelia and James stumbled backward in horror, their heart pounding against their ribcage. The whispers grew louder, the temperature dropped further, and the shadow advanced towards them. The front door that had stood ajar when they entered was now closed, its once welcoming facade replaced by an insurmountable barrier. They raced toward it, yanking at the handle in desperation, but it wouldn't budge. The room was closing in, the whispers were deafening, and the shadow was drawing closer. In the midst of the overwhelming fear, James remembered a local legend he'd brushed off as a simple ghost story. The myth claimed the spirit of the Avondale family could only find peace when a stranger heard their tale and carried it to the world, warning others of the shadow. With the entity closing in on them, he mustered all his courage and yelled into the looming darkness, promising to share the tale of Avondale Manor, to honor their history and carry their warning to the world. The whispering abruptly ceased, replaced by an unbearable silence. The room grew warmer, and the oppressive feeling started to lift. Slowly, the shadow started to recede, shrinking until it was no more than a silhouette against the wall. With a creak that echoed through the now quiet manor, the front door swung open, the morning light spilling in like a welcomed guest. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, Amelia and James sprinted out of the manor, taking in the comforting warmth of the morning sun. The eerie silence of the manor was now behind them, replaced by the tranquil sounds of the waking countryside. They didn't stop until they reached the town, their breaths heavy, their bodies drenched in sweat. They didn't speak about what happened, not yet, but they shared a mutual understanding. They had ventured into the unknown, and they had emerged with a story to tell, a warning to share. And to this day, they hold true to their promise. They tell the tale of Avondale Manor to anyone willing to listen, speaking of the shadows that lurk within. The once deserted manor now stands as a beacon of a timeless legend, a chilling encounter that bridged the divide between the living and the dead.